mild to moderate mental health services within that environment. And I think that doing that over time should reduce the rates of people progressing to the point where they are at such a level of distress and or unwellness that some kind of extreme measure, as is the case in point here, is required.
All right.
So certainly I think in the long term those kinds of services we know do reduce numbers of people getting to the point where they are so unwell. But on the other hand, I also think, and as I say, nationally there were processes afoot to increase forensic beds for people once they do reach a point where they are acutely unwell.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, David. Really do appreciate that. David Kodyer, he's a psychiatrist, 7:23.
And you're listening to Morning Report with Guy Aspinall and Susie Ferguson. Well, at the weekend, the Prime Minister, Bill English, signalled the retirement age could become an election year issue. We asked some Wellingtonians for their thoughts. First, people our reporter Michael Kropp spoke to talked about raising the retirement age to were all in their late teens or their early 20s.
River Stockwell? No, it's alright, I guess, at this moment. As long as it doesn't change for us, or they get rid of it or anything like that.
Jackson. I don't know anything about the topic, really. 65 seems right. I feel like it shouldn't go up. I feel like 65 sort of like, if it was like 70 or 75, then that's a bit of a kick in the teeth.
My name is Aja.
I'm Kyle.
What is the age?
It's 65, so that's when you get the pension.
Right. No?
It's hard without knowing. Well, I mean, every person's different. So, I mean, some people could say, yeah, it should change because my grandfather, who's 65 years old, he can't even stand up straight. But then someone else's grandfather's leaping off tall buildings with parachutes and that. Like, some people age differently, so they should.
My name's Bailey. Yes and no. We've definitely got an ageing population that needs to be taken into consideration. People live for longer now, and there's the means to allow people to live longer. So, and with birth rates as well decreasing, we're going to have like not as young of a population to support an ageing population. So, in that sense, it could be pushed a little bit later.
Michael Kropp also spoke to people who were, should we say, a little closer to the retirement age.
I'm Lisa.
Lisa, fantastic. And
Steve.
Personally, okay, we'd rather not, but realistically it does need to.
Yeah, we're not our grandparents' generation that we're all dying off at, 65 to 70. Many of us are going to be living 80, 90, maybe 100. So, yeah.
It's whether or not that age is 70, just like that, because it seems a big jump to me, but maybe 67, something like that is what they start with, and then look at it again in several years' time. But I think realistically we are going to have to do that. We've got this ageing population and we are all fitter and healthier, at that age now. Yeah.
Heather and
Lance.
Yeah, probably should go up. People are living longer, working longer. Yeah, so go up, put it up at least 5 more years. So, but gradually, so that people can plan and anticipate that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the age should be, but I think it's time to have the debate. It's been put off for too long, so time for us to have a proper debate about it and think about the future properly.
Julia? No, I don't. I think it should stay at 65.
forever?
Yes.
Why is that?
I'm nearly at retirement age and I'm really looking forward to it. And I don't know, I think it's a long time to wait, and I think it's you've got younger people coming in that can take the jobs, and if people want to retire, they can. If they don't, they can keep on working.
7:26, listening to that in our Wellington studio is the Prime Minister, Bill English. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what does a reset on superannuation look like? Can we expect an announcement before the election?
Oh, certainly before the election, quite soon. I think it's important that people know what the government position is, so that they don't get too anxious on the one hand, and if there's any changes that they know what those would be.
Is the age to rise?
Well, you'll just have to wait and see.
You did nod your head, though, when one of those people that we spoke to earlier said 5 more years. Is that any kind of an indication?
Oh, no, I was just interested in the range of opinion that you had there, from some people saying it shouldn't shift to some suggesting quite a big shift. But what was interesting there was that people were familiar with the arguments that have been around for 20 years now.
When you say that people have to wait and see, is that reassuring, do you think?
Well, look, it's just a matter of making sure that as the government takes a position, it's clear exactly what the government's position is, that you don't have a kind of half half a discussion about half the issues dribbling around for a while. I think that does create anxiety, and that's why we want to deal with the issue quite shortly.
Oh, okay. When you say quite shortly, what does that mean? Days, weeks?
Well, you'll see.
But when can people expect an announcement?
Well, when we've completed our process.
Okay. So are you going to be looking at, for example, a more flexible form, as Peter Dunne has spoken about in the past, that you can take the pension, say, at age 60, but you get less than if you wait till you're, say, age 70?
Well, I think there's been quite a bit of work done on that in the past. As far as I recall, it didn't come to a sort of decisive conclusion.
Are you considering that at all or not?
That would be a matter for discussion with Peter Dunne before anyone else.
Okay, is that something that you're doing?
Well, as I said, it would be a matter for discussion with him if it was going to be considered.
Yes, and are you doing that?
Well, again, you'll just have to wait and see where we get to a government position.
Okay, is that an indication then that you are talking to Peter Dunne about that as a possibility?
No, all I've said is that if we were going to consider it, then we'd be talking to him first about it, because it's been a position of the United Future Party. They're a coalition partner.
And you would hope to be a coalition partner of theirs in the future, wouldn't you? So that is something potentially that could be on the table here.
Well, look, I'm sure once the government's position is clear, there'll be discussion among a range of parties. Political parties will take their positions relative to the government one.
What about reducing the age? This is another call from another partner of yours at the moment, reducing the age for Māori and Pacifica for the pension.
Now, that's not something I've seen considered, and we're not considering it.
Okay. Is it likely to remain universal as an entitlement and also index linked to the average wage?
Look, again, we should wait for wait till the government's got a clear position, but no one should be expecting a change in the entitlements.
Okay, so no change to the entitlement, but perhaps linking to something else, the CPI instead?
Well, as I said, no change to the entitlement. We're not contemplating and haven't contemplated any change to the way the national super is paid.
So in that case, would you consider means testing?
Well, again, you'd have to wait and see, but we have not considered means testing. You have a scheme there now where there's been extensive debate about means testing for some time, and that issue has been settled many years ago. You
do means test beneficiaries though, so why not means test people who are of retirement age?
Well, look, New Zealand had 30 years of debate over means testing and came to the conclusion not to do it. One of the things that seems to have occurred as a result of that is significantly increased number of older people in work, because they can still retain their national super in full, even though they're working, and it's turned out that's happened on a larger scale than was expected.
The comments that you made over the weekend and that you're still talking about this morning, is this a way of essentially ruling out working with Winston Peters, because it seems to be a pretty hard line for him?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, it's I think Mr. Peters, like everyone else, should wait to see what the government position is, and then they can decide what they want to do about that. But that's really for politics later.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. 29 minutes to 8. You were listening to the Prime Minister, Bill English, in the Wellington studio.
And coming up before 8 on Morning Report, America. Of a trial. Now the headlines with Nicola Wright.
The government has racked up a legal bill of nearly $700,000 fighting a compensation case over abuse in state care. The